Hello, this is Professor Kim Nelson with the Jewelry Design Department of the Fashion Institute of Technology, continuing our series of tutorials for JD138, or Basic Rhino Modeling. Working with our cuff project. I've finished the basic construction of the piece on the flat. Now I'm going to do the stones. I played with both the idea of doing this as a faceted stone or a cabochon stone. I've decided I prefer the cab. I think it fits better with the design. So this is a cabochon from my stone library, 7x9. I'm going to go ahead and orient this stone to fit this bezel. Transform, orient 2 points, copy no, scale no, quadrant. Front quad, back quad, quadrant. Liking how that's going. Repeat the command. I'm going to project my picks. There. That's better. So that puts the stone in location for me. Now, as I was drawing this initially, I did not build a relief for the setting. I also was not sure how I would be handling the stones. Since I'm going to be doing this with cabochon, and many of the ideas that I have for what kind of stone I would use might insert a foil, for example, a rutilated quartz or a rose quartz or a moonstone. I'm going to use a closed back setting. And I am going to have to give myself a good relief on this because this is going to be a large piece and therefore more likely to be printed in a stronger material than castable resin and have a rubber mold pulled. And for rubber molding, that introduces another level of shrinkage and potential distortion. So I really need to give myself a reasonable relief. I'm going to take a look at 0.2 millimeters and see what I think. That is the standard. I'm a little nervous about that being too much. But for a stone this size, and considering it's an oval, and considering the steps of shrinkage that I'll be going through, I'm going to leave it. I want to have about 0.6 of a millimeter bezel left over as a minimum, 6 to 6.5 tenths. There's 0.6 right there. That's good. I can keep that. I need to build in a seat for this stone. So I will move it up to roughly the ground level. But it's going to be a closed back setting, so I'm going to need at least a millimeter beyond that. I'm going to give myself 1.2. Okay. So I'm going to extrude this outer line. Solid option 1.2. rest the stone upon. And I have this drawn as a dished back cab. It would more likely be a flat back for what I'm doing. And in fact, to reflect that, I'll go ahead and flatten the back of it. And I can do this by eye. I'm not terribly... This isn't the real stone. It's just to give me an idea of what I want to do. I'm going to go ahead and reselect these two outside curves and extrude them with a solid option. And I want to leave myself enough height that there's room to bend that bezel over and secure the stone. I'm going to say that should work. Going to solid union this. And then I'll extract the back surface out. Put this on a different colored layer while I'm at it. And then recap it with a single surface. Just hygiene. So that's my essential setting right there. Since it's likely to be rubber molded, and rubber molds do not like to have a 90-degree seam like this, I'm going to try and soften it with a filleted edge. I'll do the same thing around the top outside edge. Take a look what happens if I do it on the inside edge, if I think that will be problematic. I don't. I think that's okay. Alright. This is really boring to look at on the bottom. Okay? It's not a nice thing. And when you're going to have a solid back like this, it is nice, if you can, to have something nice going on. I'm going to set the C-plane to this ellipse. I'm going to offset it a ways. And then offset this a little ways as well. I'm trying to think of what I would like for a decorative pattern on the bottom. Something like that is nice. For this, I'm going to get an ellipsoid. From foci. Not what I expected. Try it from center. that's a place to start. I'm going to extrude this up in half a millimeter, solid option. And I'll fillet its edge. Since I gave 1.5 millimeters of plate thickness at the bottom, coming in 0.5 millimeter should be fine. This up flush with the ground. There, I was able to get a center point right there. I need something I can grab right here, and I'm having a hard time finding anything. So I'm going to go to a vertical C-plane, straight line, point snap, remove project, both sides on that curve. Intersect, and now I'll move this from point to point. And that should be pretty good. There's a little bit of that buried in, but I think it's okay. Solid union. Going to fillet this edge. 3/10. And the outer edge. 3/10, just to look at it. I suspect that outer fillet is going to cause me trouble later in my assembly, so I'm going to take that out. But I quite like the rest. Now this pierced through the bottom here. That's fine. Take that out. Surface, edit tool, untrim hole. That's good. Bring my stone in. Okay. That's basically my finished piece as far as the setting is concerned. I'm doubting the fact that I gave 1.5 millimeters for the bottom. That's quite a chunky piece of metal, but I do want that 0.5 millimeter of detail recessed, so I'm sticking with it. I'm going to put a couple of reference points. At the quadrant here. If I have to, I'll turn that off. Okay, it's being difficult. It seems like the only one I can get the quadrant off of is this one. Okay, that's fine. That's the original ellipse for the center stone. Okay. Group these together. Go to wireframe. Transform, orient. This time I want it to copy equals yes. Point. That's my reference points. And now I have my target points, which I'm using quad for. There's one. There's two. There's three. Okay, I know that I'm going to have to change these around the wrist. What I'm planning here is not going to work out well. I understand that. In fact, it may be even impossible to do, to get that effect that I want. But I like it flat, so liking it somewhere is a good start. I'll go ahead and assign these to that same green basic layer. For my top view, turn it off. Now, the next challenge I face is the overall depth of my piece. I think it's a little low for those bezels. So I'm going to move it up. I'm going to try 0.2. I want to use a typed in dimension so I can keep track of it. If I go too high up, these bezels will be very hard to bend over. I've got to leave myself enough metal. Too little and I have huge bezel walls to look at. I think that's nice. I'll take it. Solid extract surface. What I have here on the ground, was thinking of how I would hollow the piece out should I decide to do that. So I already have extracted the outline of this piece on the bottom. I'm going to extrude that 0.2 of a millimeter up. It's got to be perpendicular to the C-plane. Try again. 0.2. Now, should be that I can join this and these pieces together. However, I have to be aware of what I'm doing. It's always important to think ahead. I'm going to want to fillet the edge of this where it meets the wrist just to make it softer. By adding that 0.2 rim, I've limited how much I can fillet it. I won't be able to fillet it more than 0.2. In fact, I won't be able to fillet it 0.2 because once it runs into that seam, that fillet will fail. Okay, so that's an unfortunate reality. And my only escape out of that would be to not put this little rim on, to take the extruded surfaces, explode everything, extend them down longer. That's a lot more work. Another option I would have would be a non-uniform scale and just scale the whole thing up 0.2 of a millimeter. But if I do that, the slope and angle here at the top of these scrolls, which I was already tentative about, is going to get worse. So I'm making a decision that I may regret later, but there we have it. Solid cap planar holes. And that's my piece. Okay? Now, my challenge at this point is going to be up on the finger. How to assemble all of this. How to hollow it. Okay? I went through the thought process as to whether this should be hollowed, and it kind of really should be. That's the problem. It's got enough elevation that hollowing it out would not be a bad idea. Okay. Hollowing it out. I don't want more than 1 millimeter of thickness on the walls. So the first step to hollowing something out is to drawing what the hollowed out piece would look like straight up from the bottom. It's not always the first step. There are several ways to hollow things, but for something like this, yes. And I can't have a resulting channel less than 1 millimeter wide, or it isn't worth fill, it isn't worth hollowing. I mean, this is what you have to realize, is by hollowing this out, I'm only going to clear a small central channel almost all the way around. It almost isn't worth hollowing. But, and to preserve cost and weight, especially on something the size of a bangle, you would probably go through the trouble. Especially if you're working in gold or silver. Absolutely, if you're working in gold. Okay? So, there are my basics. Now, my problem is that I have some very awkward things going on. Like what's happening in here, for example. Okay? Just for one thing. I'm going to want to bring these things in and solve the problems. Whenever I have an unusual corner like this, straight line both sides, I'm going to teeter-totter it until I feel like I have kind of an equal balance there. Offset at 1 millimeter. Okay. I'm going to explode these two things out. Remove from the selection the things I'm pretty likely to want to change, and then join. So I don't have little fragments. There were 26 curves there. If I hadn't done that, I would have 26 little bits and pieces floating around after I exploded. So that exploding, taking out what you know you want to remove, and then joining it together again is a way of keeping a cleaner drawing. Curve, blend curves, adjustable blend curve. Here, here. Grab my points with shift so that they stay symmetrical. And come back until I have honored roughly that 1 millimeter distance. I'm going to explode this out. I know I can take that off and that off. Nope, can't take that. join it back together, pull these segments out, and do a blend. You want these things to be as curved and soft as you can on the inside. Okay, join. Okay, hard corners are never good. Same thing, teeter-totter both sides. Find a balance, offset 1 millimeter. Trim. Adjustable curve blend. Adjust a little bit. Join. Got another thing happening here. There's a hard corner there. We don't want to replicate it on the inside. Circle center radius. Take that kink out. Adjustable curve blend. Join it. Same thing here. Straight line, teeter-totter both sides till you get a nice average looking curve. Offset millimeter. Trim. Adjustable blend curve. Adjust it. Join. Okay. Good news is it's a repeating pattern, so as tedious as this is, I don't have to do it all over the place for the first time. Okay, so I'm looking for what I've already done. Where did it go? It's right here. Okay, so that will replace this. Unfortunately, it looks like that's all it'll replace, but okay. Transform copy, pick a related point that I can use at both locations. This little cleft will work nicely. So I've done that. Okay. These strange bald areas where the scrolls are at are obvious problem areas, so I'll tackle those. And both sides teeter-totter. And both sides teeter-totter. And both sides teeter-totter. Offset a millimeter, millimeter, millimeter. Trim. Delete. Blend. Adjust. Doesn't have to be exact. That millimeter is a guideline. So join. Okay, where have I got more of that? It's the little claw right here. So transform copy. Okay. This piece. Actually, I'll do the large claw form here next. Same series of commands. Teeter-totter both sides. Teeter-totter both sides. Teeter-totter both sides. Offset. 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 Trim. to go ahead and explode that out. Take these off, join the rest together, delete that piece. Adjustable curve blend, adjust. Adjustable curve blend, adjustable curve blend. Join them all together. And transform copy. Experience has taught me it'll be in at least one other place. This lower hook, line, both sides teeter-totter, both sides teeter-totter, both sides teeter-totter, offset, trim, adjustable curve blend, adjustable curve blend. These are working out pretty well just as they come out. That's a little too long. Tidy up, join, and copy this wherever it belongs. The lower hook is going to be easier to find because there aren't so many of them. Oh, there were 3. Delete. Getting there. This long form here. Line, straight line, both sides teeter-totter. Click, both sides teeter-totter. Offset a millimeter. Offset a millimeter. Trim. Blend. Blend. Okay. I don't like this kink right here. Circle center radius, trim. Blend. Join. Delete. Copy that to wherever it's useful. Throw away the curves it replaces. Okay. So, as far as forms in the middle, we're pretty good. Now we have these corners here. This is part of one of those weird ends, so I'm not going to go after that. Straight line, both sides teeter-totter. Both sides. Okay, actually that won't work here. So here I'm just going to use a circle center radius. Use it to trim out the hard corners. And blend curve in a softer corner. Okay, put these on a different colored layer so I can see them. Copy those to where they go. They go off to the side of the small hook. small upper hook. So copy here, here. Interesting, that didn't fit. Try again. From the end there to the end here, we have a subtle difference. Okay, I can agonize about that, or I can accept it. I'm going to accept it. Circle. Trim. Blend curve. Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and do this by hand all around. It's going to be faster than trying to duplicate it actually at this point. Sometimes it's easy. You can see these strange straight edges right here. They don't really belong. Extract them out, explode, pull them out, and then do a blend curve in their place. Blend curve. Here are those awkward straight looking segments again. Explode, shift key to pull them out, join, delete those. Okay, another one here. I can actually see that straight segment again. Control click to get them out of there. Join the others back together. Delete the old cone. Adjustable blend curve. Same thing here. Now I could likely use the ones I did over there, but it's just as fast at this point for me to redo them. Don't have too many left. This one, that one. Okay, gonna go back through it, take a quick look. I missed one here. Explode. Control click to remove those. Join. Delete. Adjustable blend curve. Missed one here. Got those same awkward straight lines. Explode. Control click click. Join. Delete. Adjustable blend curve. Down at this end, awkward straight lines, join the rest, adjustable blend curve, delete. Here the same, explode, click click, join, adjustable curve blend, delete. This looks to be the last one here. Explode. Oh, see, that didn't work. So here it's going to be a circle center radius. Trim. Delete. Adjustable blend curve. Done. join everything together. Okay, so this gives me what I need to extrude or make a block out of in order to hollow out my piece. Okay. It is basically the area in between these. So if I extrude that a ways, solid option, take a look at what I get. Okay, I missed something here. Gotta make sure I select the right curves. Again. There. That's the lattice that I can use to fillet my piece. I mean to hollow my piece. Now the question is how to go about hollowing it. First thing, I'd like to know how deep it is. So to get that, I'm going to just make a cutting plane at 0, pulling straight across. Basically it gives me the ground. I'm going to move this up until it covers pretty much the tops of my piece. And then undo. The reason I undid it is because now I can hit move again, click, and it will show me the last distance, 3.198. So my piece is basically 3.2 millimeters high at its highest, and at its lowest it's 1.55. I'll call it 1.6. Let's take a look at 1.6. Starting to lose areas, so yeah, 1.6 is its thinnest. Okay, 1.6, there's really not a point in hollowing. You don't want to go down to less than a millimeter of thickness no matter what, so it's going to barely show there. On the height areas up at the 3.2 millimeter range, yeah, we can lose 2.2 millimeters of thickness there. But how? That's the question. How do we lay it all out so it works? I have an idea. I know. I figure it out each time. But if I'm not mistaken, yes, I have my original surfaces that I used to make my maquette with. In storage. See how those interact. Not great. Really not great. Okay, so for me to chart this woven is going to be very difficult to do because I have the interlocking thing going on. And if I average these out, I have this, ends up being almost a straight line. Alright, not perfect. So if I'm going to do a solid thickness depth to handle everything, okay, a static thickness, for the 3 millimeter areas I could use 2 millimeters, but my thinnest area on this thing is 1.6. If I make it 3 millimeters high, I'm going to end up with a problem. If I go thick. Even my 0.5 millimeter thicknesses, 1.6 millimeter thicknesses, are going to get really narrow and tiny. I could have problems. .6. Let's take a look. Going to move this up 1 millimeter. Analyze direction. Make sure it's pointing down. Solid difference. Obviously, I did that wrong. Analyze direction. Flip. Thank you. Solid difference. Okay, that would be my hollowing material. Good news is I don't see it poking through anywhere. Bad news is I know that there are places like right here where I'm getting awfully close. So I'm still weighing the value of hollowing it all. And I'd want to fillet it. And these are 1 millimeter wide at the widest. Let's see what happens if I try and fillet an edge. 0.4. See, if I'm going to have to fight fillets the whole way, 3/10. Okay, hang on, I've been missing a speed piece. Let's try that again. 0.4. I've got to make sure there are no gaps. Okay, that worked. That worked. That worked. That didn't work because I was in a hurry. That worked. Do this one more carefully. Hang on. There's a gap right there. Two tiny little surfaces. But once I got them, it filleted. I'm so used to these little gaps, I'm trying to be careful not to miss them. I'm doing the center elements first because they'll be the most difficult. Now I'll do the outside edge. It's very important that I don't miss anything. I know know if I miss anything, the bullion will fail. The fillet will fail. It failed, which means I missed something. Or it might simply mean I'm trying to do too much at one time. Check along here. Make sure there's nowhere that I have a bad edge. See, even that tiny little dot could cause me a problem. No, it failed. Okay, and I can do this for hours and get the same result, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to split this. Into pieces that are more manageable, so I can find out where I'm having a problem. I'm going to split it using these cutting planes. I'm going to cap planer holes. This is a particularly important time to make sure that I'm using distance from edge as my option on a fillet. Otherwise they won't line up when I'm all done. Fillet edge. Now I can handle each one of these as a separate seam. See how that worked? That's a problem area right there. Okay? So I'll ignore it for now and keep going. That worked nicely. Okay, that worked nicely. So the only place I'm having a real challenge with is right here. I'm going to hide these two just to simplify my viewport. I know this is where one of the areas the problems tend to take place. Okay. See that little sliver of surface? Its edge has to be captured independently. Okay, as far as I can tell, I've got it all. Yep, there we are. Solid extract surface. Both ends. Unhide these two pieces. Hide the center one. Extract surface. There isn't one at the end. Sorry for making you seasick. Clicking around, clicking around. Should be able to join these together now. And it's a solid. Perfect. And now I should be able boolean difference this and hollow this at least a little bit. Before I do, I'm going to select these both. Control C, Control V, that's copy paste. Control G, that's group. Move, grid snap. Move them back a little ways. And change to my storage layer. Always save your components before you boolean. Okay. Solid difference. And we hope. Okay, it's not a tremendous amount of hollowing, but it is something. It is something. Do a 0.15 fillet along here. And see what I think. As you've already experienced, making these long fillets work out can be iffy. And that failed. Okay, I'm not going to really overthink it right now. I'm okay with it as it is at this point. Moving on, I need to finish constructing this. It's time to flow. Okay. Gonna remember which one is my flow curve. Analyze length. 150,506. Length. Okay, that's the one. I just projected it to C-plane, so it's right here. I'm going to record history. Transform. Flow along curve. Grab the end. Grab the end. And let Rhino do its magic. Okay. Going to my front view. Now obviously that's not what I want. It's quite high up off the wrist. But since I used history, now I'm getting there. Okay, that's a little bit too far in. Move it up just a touch. I am not going to want to have to boolean this edge out because I have all those hollowing done. I want it to be pretty much exactly there. And that's really good. That's fine. placed my stones. This will be done using the same method. Record history. Flow along curve. This time I'm going to change this to rigid equals yes. I don't want the stones to bend. I want them to keep their original orientation, which you can see they have. Going into my front view. Now, I can move them down. Now, the challenge is going to be, I really don't want to have less than about 1 millimeter directly under the stone. And if I want to do this fun little decorative pattern that I've done here, then I need to keep that pretty much where it is. Let's see how we look with our bracelet in position. Okay, not bad. Not bad. Okay, I can live with that. Alright. I'm going to go ahead and delete these for now. I don't like sculpting or modeling up on the 3D form when I don't have to. I need to make some modifications. I need to make these deeper, for sure. Solid, extract surface. Oops, I think I deleted the wrong one. Yeah, I did. I don't want to delete you, I want to delete you. Solid, extract surface. I'm going to take off the outsides of these, because they're poly surfaces and I may as well. Okay. Going to extrude this curve. No, that curve. That curve. And that curve. Straight down. I want to make them deeper than they need to be, considerably. Alright. I just ungrouped this. As fond as I am of those neat little decorative plates I made, they're causing a problem. I can't use them right now. I may be able to find a way to put them back in, and I'll try and do that. But right now, I need to just get settings up there on the curve. Solid cat planar holes. Okay. Transform flow with history. Rigid equals yes. Okay. Put these on a different layer. I didn't do my stones that time. They stayed behind. That's okay. That'll actually make my life a little easier for a minute. I need to boolean out the bottoms of these, which will break history. Check direction. Direction's fine. Solid difference. Take a look. Yeah, that's okay. That's respectable. Let's see what a millimeter biting into that looks like. Or a 0.5. How much does that leave between here and the stone? Another 0.5. Okay, I can't go quite as deep as I'd originally planned. Okay, that's slightly deeper than this, which is fine. I'll be able to bully on it just a touch. That'll be fine. Okay, everything's working all right. I do want that sculptural pattern in the bottom of these, and I'm going to find a way to do it right now. Solid, extract surface, copy equals yes. U. I'm going to reverse engineer this. Flow along curve. Rigid equals no now. Okay, that gives me 4 little flats. I'm running out of colors to work on. Running out of nothing. I am out of. Okay, I'll put them here. I don't really need these curves anymore. They were nice for hollowing the piece out, but now they've just extra curves in my file. Group, put on storage layer. Okay. I'm going to hope that the C-plane will let me set to that like a regular oval. Oh, I'm lucky it did. There was no assurance that would happen. Going to offset that curve. Something similar. To what I had here. And off this, I set this, something similar to what I had there. Going to extrude this up. Four-tenths of a millimeter. Trim the bottom out. Okay, so I'm reconstructing it. I'm hoping I have a quadrant off the end of this for my ellipsoid. That's going to be a challenge because there's no center point to grab from. Analyze mass properties, area centroid. That gives me a center. Point, quad, and there is no quadrant because it's not an even oval. Yeah, this is my challenge. I want to make something very geometric, but that pure geometric math gets lost in the flow process, so it becomes hard. Both sides, holding down Shift key, because it did set the C-plane fairly well to that oval. Gee, not really. Not really, it didn't. Okay. I can't do exactly what I wanted to do. That's all right. I could if I wanted to fight the fight, but I don't want to fight the fight at this point. So what I have now is a step down, step down. I'm going to go ahead and fill at this edge 0.35 after I join it all together. Get as much of a rounding effect as I can here. And that'll do. My challenge now is to find a way to orient this along each one of these. That's a challenge. That's a real challenge. Because there's no quadrant. I had counted, my strategy counted on there being a quadrant at the end of this that I can grab, and there isn't. So for all intents and purposes, these all have nothing to do with each other. The only hope I have going to undo all the way back to my initial flat surface. Redo. Actually, no, copy this. Then redo. Paste the original surface. Get rid of that point. Paste the original surface back in. Area centroid. Set the C-plane to it. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Students, this is a challenge, because I need to place this exactly along the same lines as the rest of these, and it's not going to want to do that for me. I can probably move this to here. I can't even do that. I can't even do that. Okay. Fine. Blue line back, transform flow along curve. This time I don't want to copy, and I don't want rigid. There it sits. Now this will join nicely to the bottom of this. Extract surface, copy equals no. Take out that orange surface, join this in. You know what? It's nice. It's interesting, but it's not worth the trouble. Okay. If I want to try something in the future with it, I can. For now, I'm calling just a flat back bezel okay. It's not that interesting, but it's okay. I need to trim the bottom of this off right at the bottom of this inside curve. That's disappointing. I thought I was going to be able to outsmart it. I could, but not quickly, and we don't have the time. Analyze direction, pointing towards top. solid difference. It should be very, very little difference, but I can see a slight amount. It's important that it can't sit down lower than those bezels, because I'm going to be doing some complicated assembly next. Boolean difference failed. Well, that's not good news. See, I see it being just a hair, but it's disagreeing with me. I'm going to move this 0.03 millimeters down. And that moved that the same. Hopefully that'll be enough. If it fails this time, I'm going to have to look at the length of my surface. It may not be long enough. It failed. Yes, this is the problem right here. See that? So it wasn't about it being too it was just about it being not long enough. Surface, extend surface. Let's give it a little more than that. Half a millimeter. Okay. There we go. It worked. Okay. My last consideration in assembling this is, of course, I can't have these intersecting into my bezels like that. So I need to take the surface, the outside surface. A copy, yes. Preferably, yeah, red will work. I'm going to untrim these. I'm going to offset each one 0.2 of a millimeter, minus 0.2. And use them to Boolean difference from the bracelet. Check direction, they have to point towards the bracelet. That one's good, that one's good, that one's good, that one's good. Okay, my Boolean difference failed. That's not good news. Okay. Gonna offset farther. Actually, I have a theory. It's an open surface, and it shouldn't be. It should be closed. And that's the problem. Okay, that's the problem. Analyze edge tools, show naked edges. See that seam? That's common when you do an offset surface, that it offsets it in such a way that it's mathematically not closed. And it's crazy because Rhino says there's 1.5 millimeters difference between each one of those edges, and it's clear that it isn't. It's just a fluke. One of those things you only know about because I just told you. Okay, solid difference. And that was the problem. That's good, but I made a mistake. Undo, undo, undo. I didn't keep a copy. Control C. Copy it out of Rhino. And then redo. Paste that back in. Put it on my storage layer. I'm going to put a copy of these on my storage layer. And Boolean union. Solid union. Solid union. Solid union. Transform flow along curve, rigid equals yes. We don't want to bend stones. Oh, hang on. Chord history. Unfortunately, no, rigid equals yes. Unfortunately, we may not have, I may not have. Oh, I did, good. They are where they're supposed to be. I was afraid I hadn't moved them down. Put those on the storage layer. That is the finished cuff, ready for printing. Okay, thanks for watching.